here living the dream in April 2022, and welcome to the first episode in our brand new series that Fiona has decided to call Two-Step, Two States. And you would be absolutely correct if you've assumed that Fiona and I are off to the USA. With the US government lifting restrictions to UK citizens travelling to the United States in 2021, this has been the first opportunity that Fiona and I have had to cross the pond. This is a part business trip and part fun trip, and we're going to be spending the first week in Michigan before travelling down to Nashville, Music City in Tennessee, a place that Fiona and I have never visited before. So in this series I'm going to be bringing you all of the fun stuff and leaving all of the business stuff off camera. So in this first episode, join Fiona and I on board Delta Airways in premium economy on one of their brand new Airbus A350s. And being an av geek, I'm really excited about this one because I've never travelled on an Airbus A350 before, so I'm really looking forward to it. Here goes. You join Fiona and I on Monday morning on board a KLM 737-800 overhead the North Sea on initial descent into Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport. Living in Scotland, there are no direct flights to Detroit from either Glasgow or Edinburgh, so we had the choice to fly from Glasgow or Edinburgh down to London Heathrow and then on to Detroit on either Virgin or Delta. And then there was this choice, which meant we would be flying on KLM between Glasgow and Amsterdam and then on to Detroit on board Delta. And due to COVID restrictions entering the United States, which were currently in place in early April 2022, Fiona and I had taken a rapid antigen test 24 hours earlier, and this had to be taken by a professional health worker. So a day earlier, Fiona and I had taken the trip down to Glasgow Airport and taken this test at a cost of £55 each. We received the results 15 minutes later with a certificate that meant we could travel to the United States. And all of our paperwork was required to be in order before checking in for this KLM flight to Amsterdam. So as you can see, we're now on final approach on this first sector of our journey from Glasgow across to Detroit, and we're now on final approach into Amsterdam Schiphol Airport. With a scheduled 90 minutes transfer time between our flight from Glasgow and our flight across to Detroit, Fiona and I were very relaxed about both our bags and ourselves transferring from this aircraft across to the Delta flight. However, little did we know about what was ahead of us this morning when we deplaned at the D gates at Schiphol Airport. Amsterdam Schiphol is an airport that I've visited many times over the decades, both travelling on business to the Netherlands and transferring through this European mega hub. Our plan this morning was to find an information board in search of the gate number for our onward connection to Detroit. The problem was this morning when we did this, we realised we'd picked up a 4.5 hour delay on our flight to Detroit. So a 1.5 hour transfer between flights was now 6 hours. As a result, it was now time to find breakfast. Then we did some window shopping, followed by coffee at Starbucks, which of course included the obligatory plane spotting, which is always a pleasure at Schiphol. And after more window shopping, Fiona and I did manage to sneak in a little drink, followed by that all-important trip to McDonald's. So our little delay, courtesy of Delta Airlines, probably cost Fiona and I nearly €100. But we also watched the two later Delta flights leave earlier than us for Detroit. So when we finally did start heading towards the gate. Fiona and I were hoping for a quieter flight because we were sure that Delta would have accommodated a number of the non-transfer passengers onto either of the two earlier flights. And when we arrived at the gate to go through the additional security screening required to enter the USA, it was just my luck to be selected for additional scrutiny. And when it finally came to boarding, Delta's policy was to call those requiring additional time or assistance first, followed by US military, and then all passengers in Delta 1 or business class. Fiona and I, of course, were in the premium select cabin, which translates as Delta's version of premium economy. So we were called to board straight after. And just like British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, American Airlines, etc., Delta's premium economy cabin is configured in a 242 on board this Airbus A350. But being a fairly new aircraft, everything on board was very modern, including Wi-Fi and of course the enormous flat screen in-flight entertainment system, which of course was using the latest touch technology, and it was extremely responsive with a wide variety of TV shows and movies. And as Fiona and I expected, the cabin that we were in was actually only about half full, which in the end was an added bonus for Fiona because her footrest was broken, which meant during the cruise that she would move into the seat in front. Anyway, it wasn't long until we were pushing back for the extremely short taxi to runway 24 here at Amsterdam Schiphol, but only after watching Delta's version of the in-flight passenger emergency briefing. As you can see, it was a very murky day when we departed Amsterdam, and straight after departure from the runway in Amsterdam Schiphol, we will be making a number of right-hand turns, pointing the aircraft in a northwesterly direction towards the North Sea, and then crossing England and Ireland, skirting the northern and southern Irish border, before starting our transatlantic crossing towards northern Canada, where we would make our approach into the Detroit area over Lake St. Clair, just to the north of Windsor, Ontario. So as we climbed through the first layer of clouds towards the North Sea, Fiona and I settled down to lunch, or was it dinner, or it was something. The bottom line was we had a meal served to us within 30 minutes of departing Amsterdam. And I'm going to make the assumption that the premium economy food is exactly the same as you were going to get in economy and comfort plus. And the bottom line, it was really good. Fiona and I both chose the chicken Thai green curry, and yes guys, it was excellent, and we enjoyed our meal as the clouds disappeared below us and we were finally into blue sky. I'd chosen to wash my curry down with Miller Lite, and it was a very pleasant surprise to have this beer served icy cold, which is something I've never experienced before flying, so well done to Delta for both the excellent meal and the super cold beer. And our second meal was served 90 minutes before landing in Detroit, where we both chose the pizza, and this was very similar to the pizza that American Airlines served me on my last trip to the US just before the pandemic in 2019. And given that British Airways would serve you a stale cold sandwich at this point in the flight, well done to Delta for going that extra mile for their customer and providing a hot snack before landing. Anyway, we had now started our initial descent towards Detroit. And if you're wondering why Fiona's wearing her coat and I'm wearing my fleece, well, the cabin was absolutely freezing the whole way across the Atlantic. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the Delta service on board this Airbus A350 was the free Wi-Fi. Like most Western airlines in modern aircraft, Delta do offer a Wi-Fi package. And while it wasn't very expensive, they did offer a free Wi-Fi package, enabling us to send and receive texts, access WhatsApp messages, and of course Facebook. It worked really well, and to be quite frank, that's all we needed on this flight across the Atlantic. So as we make our way through the cloud layer overhead Detroit, Michigan, how would I sum up today's flight on board Delta in premium economy on their Airbus A350-900? The bottom line is Fiona and I were very impressed. The cabin crew were excellent, food and drink was plentiful and even very tasty, and our tickets were excellent value in my opinion. And given the fact that Fiona and I have both travelled across the Atlantic in premium economy on board British Airways, I would put Delta well ahead, with both the hard and soft products being really excellent. As you can imagine, I wasn't going to film the immigration process, but due to the late arrival of our aircraft, that only took about 5 minutes, and our bags were off 10 minutes after that. So Fiona and I decided to stay in the warmth of the arrivals area, waiting on our awesome friend Phil to pick us up to drive us to their place in Lansing. And this is where I'm going to bring this episode to an end. Fiona and I hope that you've enjoyed this trip report on board Delta Airlines in premium economy between Amsterdam and Detroit, Michigan in April 2022. And if you would like to continue to follow our two-step to States mini-series, please guys don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified when our next video is published, which will be every Thursday at 8 AM British summertime until we finish our trip to the United States in April 2022. Thank you so much for watching.